As the title suggests, this video includes 2 reviews. Both are spoiler-free. The first one will be done by my friend Antonio, who I saw this with. He also reviews movies. Before we get to him, though, a brief plot synopsis. The story follows Jurassic World's operations manager Claire Deering, velociraptor expert and trainer Owen Grady, and brothers Zach and Gary Mitchell. The latter 2 are nephews of Claire and are visiting the park. But after a hybrid dinosaur escapes captivity, it's up to Claire and Owen to secure her nephews and locate the dinosaur so they can kill it. Now with that out of the way, here's my friend with our first review on Jurassic World. Take it away, Antonio.
Corporate felt genetic modification would up the wow factor.
They're dinosaurs, wow enough.
And yet, there are still people who went and saw the movie in IMAX 3D format. Well, seeing it in 3D rarely, if ever, hurts the movie seeing experience. But it usually doesn't help with the experience either. You'd think with Jurassic World, that would be different. It's 3D for crying out loud. All that teeth! Ah! Here's some fun, let's go! And in this movie, there are a lot of teeth to be seen, but there's still plenty more as well. Chris Pratt has got an interesting role to play, filling in the boots of the Robert Muldoon character, who of course was in the book, but in the movie he's more loosely inspired by Spielberg's Indiana Jones character. Owen is not a big game hunter. Owen is ex-Navy, and the reason I say big game hunter is because that's exactly the character Robert Muldoon was. That was his purpose in the story. For some reason, being ex-Navy makes Owen a dinosaur expert. What I think the movie's point is, one doesn't need to be a dinosaur expert. You just have to understand what you're dealing with. Something that everyone in the movie is discovering, however quickly that may be. Bryce Dallas Howard also has an interesting role in this movie. She is the successor to John Hammond, or her character is the successor to John Hammond. And she does a decent job, at least, of playing that role. And on top of that, she and her fellow co-stars display some pretty good chemistry, both in person and over the phone, as she and her sister, played by Judy Greer, are conversing on the boys who have their own adventure on the island. The boys I am talking about are the nephews to Howard's character, played by Ty Simpkins and Nick Robinson. The park is open, of course, if you paid any attention to the marketing. But in the movie, it's actually been open for a while and has seen some pretty staggering success. And things have gone quite smoothly. But Howard's character remains unsatisfied because her investors continue to remain unsatisfied. Investors such as Verizon Wireless and Pepsi Cola. With big budget corporations continuing to step in to run the show, some speculate that those same corporations should be naming the dinosaurs themselves. Ba-dum-dum-ching! Howard's character is the latest example of a John Hammond. Someone with enormous expectations, enough money to fill a yacht and then some, but not always the wisdom needed to spend the money where it's needed most, in research, because people aren't aware of what's really going on in the lab that's making the dinosaurs. Until... It's a pretty good story that Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly have pieced together, having to adapt Amanda Silver and Rick Jaffe's screenplay to something that makes a little bit more sense and is more current, but not one to top the story told in the first Jurassic Park. Rick Jaffe and Amanda Silver have some great ideas, as their movies have shown, but their ideas are probably stronger on paper than they are once they're shown on the silver screen. And it's their latest batch of ideas that Trevorrow and Connolly have had to rework into something that will bring audiences to theaters. Well, I can tell you, what Trevorrow has done paid off in a big way. The story might be a bit goofy, but the dinosaur action is well worth it. And Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, along with their co-stars Judy Greer, Ty Simpkins, and Nick Robinson, have proven that they bring in the big bucks. Okay, why should any of this matter? It's Jurassic World. Wasn't the first Jurassic Park enough? Yes and no. For die-hard dinosaur fans, not excluding myself. 3 dinosaur movies inspired by the late Michael Crichton are never enough. Well, thankfully, the 12 years we have waited for this latest Jurassic movie have proven worth the wait. There's enough dino action in this movie to make any dino fan and inner 11-year-old giddy as we sit in our seats, especially as we watch Owen lead the Velociraptors on a dino hunt. How's that for a motorcycle scene? It also gets dark and emotional in places. The first movie has one of the darkest moments, if not the darkest moment, in the franchise's history, when Dennis Nedry, the rather sloppy but cunning thief, is eaten alive by a vicious dinosaur in the very car he stole. As a sort of shout-out to that disturbing moment, we see a character get the axe in another dark manner that Trevorrow cleverly put together by first making her pterodactyl food and then fish food in just a minute and a half of film. The woman I'm talking about doesn't have much use in the story. She's more or less a bit part. But she's in the movie enough you can still sympathize with her when she's swallowed whole. Once things go bad, they get worse faster. And the action doesn't let up. There's a plenty more teeth and harrowing moments by Howard's character. Another good move on the filmmakers, making the woman who started the whole mess in the first place to be the one to help save the day. And the best part of this movie is it gives no hints whatsoever to what's coming next. I give Jurassic World 4 out of 5 stars. It gets emotional in darkened places, both literally and metaphorically, and even if the movie doesn't live up to expectations for those who are fans of the story in the first Jurassic Park, it's still good enough to take the kids to. Maybe even for a second viewing.
Awesome. Thank you, Antonio. Before this movie, I'd only seen the first Jurassic Park, and while I liked it, I never felt compelled to watch the sequels. I saw this one because I like Chris Pratt, and I was curious to see what the director of Safety Not Guaranteed could do with this material. The good news is, with the help of writers Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, and a huge visual effects team, Colin Trevorrow has delivered a movie I think few will be let down by. What I liked most were the visual effects and sound effects. All of the artists responsible for the dinosaurs made them look and sound fantastic, and that goes especially for the finale, which features engaging action and a twist that made me smile. My favorite scene is Owen's introduction. It features a strong performance by Chris Pratt and powerful suspense. Where I think the film could have improved is the casting, the characters, the dialogue, presentation of death, gender dominance, and the structure. In the beginning, emphasis is put on showing Gray and Zach's journey to the park. I think it would have been better to begin with Claire and then show the boys arriving at the park, because showing them first implies they are the focus of the story, and they're really not. Concerning gender dominance, there are multiple times in this movie where a man is shown as being braver than his female scene partner. A good example is when Claire cowers behind Owen so as to avoid being seen by the hybrid dinosaur. Some may not read into that too much, but I found it to be annoying and sexist. Regarding the dialogue, while there are times when characters speak interesting dialogue, a majority of it is bland and lacks punch. When it comes to presentation of death, the sickening part of going to a film like this is we not only expect to see death, we want to see death. Just seeing a dinosaur is not nearly good enough. We have to see them eat someone. And if that is a factor for you in seeing this or not, rest assured there is a fair amount of death in this movie. The issue I have is I felt like some of them were engineered more for shock value than for storytelling purposes, and that actually leads me to the characters. Very few of them are interesting and really worth rooting for. I want characters I can care about and remember. It is not a good sign if a dinosaur devours a character and my first thought is, whatever. Last but not least, there is the casting. I like Bryce Dallas Howard, but she does not feel like the right actor for this character. It's a role that requires someone with the qualities of a leader, and to be honest, she comes off to me as more of a follower than a leader. My recommendation would have been Jessica Chastain because to me, she just has the look of a leader. With all that said, while this film did not blow me away, I did enjoy watching it. I give Jurassic World 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have an awesome day.